Well, hello everyone, and happy Juneteenth. This is an exciting day for the city of Harrisburg and for our country, as we recognize and remember the announcement that was spread announcing the end of slavery. And I wear today my Emancipation Proclamation tie in honor of Juneteenth. And we just got back from Facebook Live, where Linwood and I had a fascinating discussion. It will be archived on YouTube for everyone to watch, about the history of the news of the Emancipation Proclamation in Harrisburg, as well as how that led to the Reconstruction Amendments, and all the way up today, and helped inform the movement for the Commonwealth Monument Project. I want to acknowledge here with us today, we're pleased to have three members of Harrisburg City Council. We have Council President Wanda Williams in her Juneteenth t-shirt. We have Councilwoman Danielle Bowers, who is right there. And we have behind them Councilman Dave Madsen. And it's great that they are here to help us. And I also want to acknowledge another elected official, our state senator, Mr. John DeSanto, who we're thrilled was able to come. Today, as I said, is an important day, and just if I could, there's a lot going on in Harrisburg. First of all, the young professionals of color have opened up their manor house at 315 South Front Street. You can walk over there and enjoy finding out about that organization and during this day of celebration. And then at 5 o'clock, the community will be gathering at the old Bishop McDevitt High School for a parade, which will, hopefully, weather permitting, rain or shine, lead us to Sunshine Park, where the sun will come out, and we will be able to celebrate with a cookout. A variety of local African-American vendors will be present, and it should be a great event there at Sunshine Park. And then it will culminate tonight with Third in the Berg. And I am assured that by this evening, the rain will have stopped, and it will be a peaceful night. And for Third in the Berg, there's going to be a live showing of Black Panther on Verbeck Street in Midtown Harrisburg. They're shutting down Verbeck Street outside of La Cultura, and we can join in that as part of Third in the Berg. So a series of events here in Harrisburg today. In addition to celebrating Juneteenth, we are receiving a very special presentation today from the folks that are involved in the Commonwealth Monument Project to remind us that that project is very much ongoing. And the next important date for you all to realize is going to be August 26th, and that's when we will reveal at the site of the monument a lot of the progress that's been made, and I'll let Linwood talk about that. Just a quick few words about the Old 8th Ward and its importance to Harrisburg history and to our memory and our celebration of Juneteenth. The Old 8th Ward was, of course, the neighborhood in Harrisburg that was replaced by much of the Capitol complex. It was a predominantly African-American and working-class neighborhood, and it was a neighborhood in which news of the Emancipation Proclamation, news of the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments were very much debated and discussed actively during the day. And one of the things that we're encouraging is we're encouraging people to go to the Commonwealth Monument Project website and take a look at the history of the Old 8th Ward and try and make connections between the people who live there and their ancestors, and people who currently have ancestors who are part of the Old 8th Ward. We're trying to bring them together in reunion and celebration for this monument project. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about how this journey has affected me personally. I discovered, working with the good folks at Messiah, that there was a German immigrant named Lizzie Papenfuss who was a domestic servant in the Old 8th Ward. In fact, she appears in the 1900 census as a German immigrant, 17 years old, who could read, write, and speak English, and was working for the Bucher family at a hotel that they ran. The address was the corner of 5th and State Street, so literally right behind where the Forum is today. She drops out of the record by 1910. But after working as a domestic servant in Harrisburg, she and her family moved to Steelton, and she is listed in the directories of Steelton in about 1908, 1909, as, among other things, a cigar maker. So that's an exciting part of the history. And she appears to be related to my great-great-great-grandparents, all of whom came from Germany to the United States, but came in through different ports and settled in different areas. Probably originally due to the work that was provided both in Baltimore, where some settled with the B&O Railroad, and in Pennsylvania with the Pennsylvania Railroad, and up through Canada and upstate New York as well. So they worked along the railroads. They were part of an immigration from Europe that really came and defined us all. So there's a personal history here for myself and my family. There's a personal history for all of us as we celebrate and we look back at our history. And the Old Eighth Ward is something which should not be forgotten and should inform our conversations today. And that's why I'm so excited about this monument. And I have to say, Lenwood and I discussed this earlier, but here in Harrisburg, we have something to be very proud of. We are building monuments at the same time monuments are being torn down and defaced throughout our country. And we're building monuments to people whose voices have not been preserved and not been heard as they should. And it's something to be incredibly proud of. The first monument to African Americans on a Capitol complex anywhere in the country is what this monument is going to be. And it is going to stimulate the type of discussion, the type of remembrance of our past and our history that we celebrate here on Juneteenth, but that we're having as part of a national dialogue on how we continue to evolve and grow as a country with the legacy of slavery very much at the heart of our collective narrative. So I welcome this gift, and I also welcome this opportunity to talk to all of you about the Commonwealth Monument Project and what we have in store. It is something that will make us all very, very proud in Harrisburg. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to you, Lenwood, to talk a little bit about the project itself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Behold how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. I am Linwood Sloan. I refer to myself as Harrisburg's foster child. Why? I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Homewood District, which was torn down through eminent domain. I was schooled in Philadelphia. I was cured and simmered in New Orleans until Katrina blew my house away. And I came to Harrisburg with 500 others to relocate. Harrisburg has been a great foster parent, and I feel that it is important for me to give back. Foster children are always looking for their people. And so this project is about looking for my people. When I was in Homewood, Pennsylvania, I wrote a poem as a child called Tears of My People. And I went through the street and I picked up broken pieces of glass from all of the different places that used to be there. Gaither's flower shop and Warden's funeral home and Mr. Dorsey, who gave me my first job in his pharmacy store. And I kept those pieces of glass with me until I lost them in Katrina. So when I came here to Harrisburg, I dedicated myself to looking for Harrisburg's lost people. Now, there are no bricks, there are no mortars, there are no pieces of glass that we can pick up in the old 8th Ward. There is no cornice or cobblestone or doorway. In fact, the entire 8th Ward vanished through that eminent domain. But what is remembered, what can be restored, are the voices of the people. And so the monument centerpiece is an orator's pedestal. And on that orator's pedestal are the names of 100 African-American families from the old 8th Ward. And we have been searching with Messiah College and Harrisburg University for the descendants of those 100 families. We are happy to announce today, Mr. Mayor, that we have discovered 87 relatives, 87 families have been identified of the 100 families. We're still looking for you. We're still calling you home. The mayor has designated the summer and fall of 2020 Harrisburg Homecoming, and we need you to meet us at the monument. We need you to stand on that hallowed ground. We need you to come home and reclaim your history. And you can go to digitalharrisburg.com and see the names of those people, but you don't have to be a descendant of those people to adopt one of those names. Click on one of them, follow one of them, build their history and watch their families emerge from the distant history to the present. This is the fifth of our public events. Now, it is Juneteenth, and you know the Emancipation Proclamation was a piece of legislation. The Emancipation Proclamation is built on an equilateral triangle: legislators acting, administrators enabling, and people keeping the vigilance. Legislators enacting, administrators enabling, and citizens keeping the vigilance. One who has kept the vigilance of our 5 events has been our own senator here. And so I'd like to ask Mr. John DeSanto if he'll step to the mic and say a few words.
Thank you, Lenwood. It's a pleasure to be here. It's interesting, since becoming a senator, how much my horizons have really widened up. Being a lifelong resident of Harrisburg, I never met Lenwood before, but I also sit on the Capitol Preservation Committee. I'm a huge history buff, voracious reader, and meeting Lenwood and being introduced to this project has really grabbed me, because obviously having the monument on the grounds of the Capitol and being on the Capitol Preservation Committee, I think it ties well with our whole system of trying to preserve and promote different parts of our history. You know, speaking of Juneteenth, Representative Sue Helms introduced the bill and got it passed last year, and Governor Wolf signed it to recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday in Pennsylvania. So I take pride in that, having voted for that as well. And I think in today's troubled times, it's nice to see events like this where people are coming together and reflecting on history and rediscovering how we all really are one big people here, and we should be working together. So thank you so much for including me in the project, Mayor. Thanks to you as well, and I can't wait till August 26th to be there when it's unveiled.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I've given you a virtual handshake, as you know, and I have my mask in my pocket here. So the senator, along with Senator Costa and Senator Brown from the Bipartisan Arts Caucus, Senator Street, Senator Hayward, Representative Kim, Representative Gainey from Pittsburgh, Representative Byron Kirkland, have jointly passed H.R. 415, the House resolution, and S.R. 158, the Senate resolution, authorizing the placement of the monument at 4th and Walnut on the K. Leroy Irvis lawn. Why 4th and Walnut? Because there is a sign there that says that on that spot in 1859, Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison spoke to the people of the African American community about working in vigilance for the value of the vote. So it is a historic site. Across the street from it is a pedestal set there by the city of Harrisburg that confirms that the location, Tanner's Row, was an authentic location of the Underground Railroad. It was a doorway to what we refer to as a free town. That free town was where freedom seekers, we do not call them runaways anymore, so please help me correct your jargon. We refer to them as active in their own freedom, seeking freedom. I love those "you are here" maps that tell you kind of where you are. So I have asked Jeb Stewart, who found for us the first map of what the neighborhood looked like in 1870, to share some thoughts about the cultural and historic grounding of the site. Jeb?
Thank you, Linwood. We tried to find what the old 8th Ward looked like so that our friends in Lancaster, Art Research and Technology, Becky Alt and Ben, could develop the 3D model that you're going to be seeing shortly, which represents the top of the pedestal, which is the centerpiece of the monument collection. And with that said, we did some research, and we were able to find an 1881 aerial bird's eye view of Harrisburg, which is really cool because it's three-dimensional in its illustration to show the streets, the buildings, the layout of the neighborhood, and as it related to at that time, I have this upside down, forgive me. At that time was the old Capitol, which burnt in 1897 and was replaced by the current Capitol, dedicated in 1906. So this became a blueprint for what we were able to develop with our folks in Lancaster for the 8th Ward layout. Like further, our friends at Messiah College and through the history detectives that Linwood has been involved with did a lot of research on historic photography, primarily through the Pennsylvania State Archives. There's a large collection there on the 8th Ward as that area was photographed before and for posterity before it was demolished by the Commonwealth over a period of time between 1911 and 1920 for what, of course, became the Capitol complex. First with the Irvis building, then with the North Office building, then with the Education building, and finally with the Finance building. And of course, in the 1980s, the Capitol's East Wing was constructed, beautiful neoclassical addition to the Capitol with the centerpiece fountain, which of course is a showcase as we stand today. So in any respect, we wanted to show this image, which you folks can see later, we'll have it here, and that will relate to what Linwood and others will be showing you shortly, which is before it's unveiled as to the 3D model of this neighborhood.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jim.
Linwood.
I spoke to one of our colleagues here today that said, you've been talking about this for 4 years. Well, yes, we have been working diligently for 4 years, but you know what? This is the 400th year of the 1691 project. So 4 years over 400 years is a very small fraction in time. You know, we still have work to do and diligence to do. I need to acknowledge Miss Nancy Mendez. Nancy, will you raise your hand and step up to my side here? Miss Nancy Mendez was the co-chair of our Art and Design Committee, and we put out a call through the Pennsylvania Downtown Association, Main Street and Elm Streets, when we began the project for city Elm Street and Main Street managers to nominate artists and artisans who had created dynamic public artworks through the collaboration with communities. And Nancy drew the first renderings that we sent out for the call. 35 people submitted RFPs, 12 were selected, 6 went forward to the Department of General Services for review and engagement, and 1 was selected. The exciting selection was the Arts Research Team and Becky Alt in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm going to introduce Becky, but I wanted to thank Nancy because it was her first renderings that resulted in artists interpreting our vision of a conversation on a corner around a document, the 15th Amendment. That document floated around the hands of the 4 figures. First, we had Jacob Compton, who had been Abraham Lincoln's coachman to get him out of Harrisburg in 1861. He was holding the document of the 15th Amendment as evidence that he had gained the vote. And then we said, oh no, what if you put the document in Thomas Morris Chester's hands? Because Chester and his family had voted senator in 1838, And so the passage of the 15th Amendment in 1870 for them was a restoration of the right to vote. We thought that that was a really good story. Then we said, no, 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 no. Put it in T. Morris Chester's hands, because he had advocated for United States colored troops, and he had instigated for the vote. Finally, we decided to put it in the hands of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, the abolitionist and suffragist, who is, you will see on August 26th, handing the document of the 15th Amendment back to the men with the expression on her face that I don't see my name in this anywhere. Gentlemen, there's still work to do. The dynamic team that has translated our vision into an actual multi-element monument is Becky Alton team. I'd like to ask Becky to step forward now.
Thank you, Linwood. I must say, I am so happy we are here today. I wasn't sure that with the weather and my short schedule, I'm under a deadline like crazy right now, that I was going to be able to appear. Linwood is quite the taskmaster, so, and he's what I consider my magic man, because he is able to gather all these elements together and bring us all together today. Just a short history on, I have two companies, Art Research Enterprises and Art Design Group. We've been in the Lancaster, PA area for 40 years. We started in Ohio, and when I say we, I have another business partner, I'm sorry, that's not here today. My junior partner is back there, Ben. On any given day, we may have 15 to 30 different employees in the facility, depending on the type of sculptures that we may be building. We produce art, our own art. We also produce for well-known artisans all over the country. So if you see a work of art somewhere in your city, we probably made it. So all that being said, you are definitely invited to come visit us sometime. Through the selection process, there was a wonderful committee, which of course was Linwood Sloan, Jeb Stewart, Nancy Mendez, there was Kelly Summerfield, and I think there was also a Phyllis Bennett that scared me to death, but, and some of you know her. But we survived the interrogations and were able to come to this point. The one thing I know we're all talking about is the city of Harrisburg is becoming a very progressive city. Now, I think some of that may be because they are remembering their past. In order to move forward, we have to remember our past. And this is absolutely a fabulous, fabulous idea. As I started doing some research, and Jeb Stewart was wonderful in helping me through that, he said I should read the book by Michael Barton, which I did. I found some beautiful old photographs that we were able to, on the pedestal, the Orators pedestals, this you will see is the top of the Orators pedestal, which is a skyscrape, not of the entire 8th Ward. We were selective in doing some of the streets. But on the side of the pedestals are reliefs of the buildings, the establishments, the businesses, some of human figures. We added human figures. As you look at the photos in this book, there are really no human figures. In order for us to bring this together to feel that we're all connected to it, we need to add human figures to it also. Schools, there were several schools, there were lots of churches and synagogues. It was a mixed group of individuals that were working and living and had a thriving community. And the 100 voices that have been chosen to place on the pedestal were individuals that had lived there. Originally, that was going to be the 100 names were going to be placed on bricks, and I know all of you have seen those type of memorials before. Bricks where you actually walk on the bricks. As Linwood and all of us started talking about that representation, my other partner, Mike, and I came up with an idea. We went, sometimes we shouldn't really be walking on the names. If we're trying to elevate these individuals to a certain heroic which they were, they're our ancestors that took us so far, that we need to elevate those names. So that's why we came up with the pedestal idea, which has become very central to the entire composition of the sculpture. This sculpture has 3 different elements, messages in it. It's the 8th Ward, it's the 15th Amendment, and it's the 19th Amendment. How do you bring all those messages into one work of art? So we really struggled with this. We all struggled. And we finally came up with a great design. So we have Jacob Compton, who was a carriage driver. He was working for a very prominent carriage business, but he knew all the back roads in Harrisburg. And when Abraham Lincoln was here, he was able to save Abraham Lincoln from an assassination attempt because he knew all the back roads. He got him off to the train on time and away from harm. So he's definitely one of our heroes that we are representing in this sculpture. Then we have Thomas Chester French, no.
Thomas Morris Chester.
Thank you, Thomas Morris Chester, who is the first war correspondent, African-American, for the Philadelphia Press, and he traveled the world. He lived in many different areas, and he's a very prominent individual, and he needs to be remembered also. Then we have William Howard Day from your community. That was the first African-American school board president, director, and that is absolutely fascinating. And all these people, except for Jacob Compton, were free individuals. There's also the female in the group, which is Frances Watkins Harper. She was the author of many, many periodicals and is known as the mother of African American journalism. Now, she was also they were all abolitionists, but she was also a suffragette. So she was very instrumental in getting the 19th Amendment to pass. So all of these heroes are all gathered around the orator's pedestal, which then makes it a total composition that we were able to say, we have all these elements and all this messages and all this education for our young people, because our young people is how we are going to survive and to continue forward to where we want to go. I think I've said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. So, just a few more things and we'll unveil. So there is a orator's pedestal as the centerpiece. Because of the pandemic, health, economy, justice, we have been delayed. So on August 26th, we will put the first pair of full-life bronze statues into the tableau. They are William Howard Day, representing the 15th Amendment, and Frances Harper, representing the 19th Amendment. And you will be able to see Frances handing the 15th Amendment back to William Howard Day. On November 14th, which is the anniversary of Harrisburg's Grand Review of the United States Colored Troops, we will install the second duet. T. Morris Chester, who recruited for the USCT and the famed 54th and 55th Massachusetts, and Jacob Compton, that carriage driver and Underground Railroad conductor. And we often ask ourselves, Senator, that if Jacob Compton didn't know the way out of Harrisburg and the assassination was complete, would there have been a party of Lincoln? So Mr. Compton is very important in this year with the party of Lincoln, and we hope that all parties embrace this monument and all participants and citizens embrace this monument. They will be looking down upon the city of Harrisburg from 1870 to 1912. And so now, without ado, I'll step forward and I'd like to reveal for you, Mr. Mayor, this framed piece is one of a series of only 5 bronze replicas of the historic Old Eighth Ward. The first piece was in the art collection of Miss Peggy Grove, who was our benefactor and the catalyst for the project. The second piece in the series of 5 has gone to the governor, who is the steward of that spot. The third piece goes to the city of Harrisburg for its commitment and devotion to the people of Harrisburg then and now, sustaining a bridge work of that history. Number 4 will go to the county of Dauphin and the commissioners of Dauphin to thank them for their investment in securing the funds to complete the 4 life-size bronze. And the 5th one is waiting for a donor who can help us complete our campaign. You know, Mr. Mayor, we hope that this hangs in the Martin Luther King Administration Building as a dynamic symbol of the bridge of history, so that the voices of then, the activists now, and the seeds of the future may all see and know their collaboration. We encourage you to come down to City Hall and see this piece. You will see the full pedestal on the site. That site is being renamed the Irvis Equality Circle. Why? Because K. Leroy Irvis was the first African-American Speaker of the House in any state, Mr. Mayor, since Reconstruction. Why? Because Pennsylvania sent to Washington, D.C. in 1876 Samuel Randall, who became Speaker of the House, who cast a deciding vote to end Reconstruction. So the placement of the Irvis Equality Circle on the lawn and the placement of the monument on that circle becomes an act of reparation for us to reclaim the GPS. And I'm happy that Mr. John Mellon of Mellon and Associates has joined this progress and joined this activity by becoming the architect and engineer for the preparation of the site. And John, would you say a few words now? Mr. Mayor, I'm going to change places with you so John can address you.
Thank you, Lenwood. Lenwood's a tough act to follow. I'm John Melham. I'm president of Mellon Associates. We've had the privilege of being in Harrisburg. I founded the company January 1, 1985. Years have gone by. We've had the privilege of doing a lot of things in this area and beyond. Not least of which, one of our first ones, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned it earlier, was we restored Sunshine Park many years ago. And that's been kept very nicely by the local neighborhood against some of the concerns at the time that it wouldn't be. I won't speak longly. Our job here, and I'm privileged to be in this position, our job here is to get this thing built. We have a small area that's given to us by DGS on the Irvis lawn, as Lenwood has described. It's a 20-foot semicircle, and within that space allocated to us, we want to come up with a plaza, and there are basically 5 things that I think is our charge, principally me, because I've taken this on as a personal interest in our company. First is, it has to grace the beautiful artwork that Becky and her company has produced. What we are doing isn't going to compete with that. It's going to be very simple and frame the artwork and help to serve that as a focus. There was mention earlier of the importance of the orator's pedestal. We took that as a centerpiece. Everything radiates from that important nexus. So the first thing is it has to grace the artwork. Second thing is we wanted to make it accessible to everybody, handicapped, non-handicapped, young, old, and the design will do that. Third thing is that I want it to be permanent as the bronze in Becky's statuary, in her figures, and the pedestal. I don't want anything to rot. I don't want little bits to fall off or to rust or tarnish. It has to be permanent. Fourth thing was it had to be affordable, because we don't have much in the way of a budget. Money's always dear, and it's no different here. Fifth and last is I got to make the deadline. Okay, it's got to be buildable within a very short space of time. That means we can't. Even if we had the money, we can't spend it on fancy details that take a long time to fabricate. I, as a landscape architect, I have no really signature in this. The mission are those 5 things I just outlined for you. In one word, it's a very simple. Simplicity can have its own elegance, and I hope when you see this small plaza, you'll understand how it came to be and what we're trying to do. It's satisfy those 5 things, and I thank Lenwood, I thank Jeb, I thank the mayor, everybody involved with this project for asking our help. And with God's good grace, we'll meet that deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. I come from a tradition of the right hand of fellowship, so it's very strange not to extend my hand and to shake your hand, sir. But you are actualizing in terra firma our plan for the next 100 years. I'll shake your hand, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of our time here. We must thank the Foundation for Enhancing Communities, TFEC, who's the fiscal agent of the Harrisburg Peace Promenade and the Commonwealth Monument Project. And also Miss Peggy Grove for the sheer generosity of her lead gift to make this happen. But we are a committee of some 40 organizations and 200 individuals. And the person who keeps us in the needle's eye of our capacity to achieve this is our treasurer, Kelly Summerford, for the project. So I ask him if he might say some final words before I thank the mayor.
Good afternoon. It seems that no one always leaves me for last because he knows that I will beg. So part of my job as the treasurer of this project is to ask for money. One of the things that I have to say is that we have those 100 names, and I really want to reach out to the families so that they can make a donation. We are probably now in our 4th quarter, the 4th down, and we're almost there to meet our goal. And I am asking people now, because we are so close to reaching our final goal, to go to the website, monumentpaus.com, and make a donation. This has been a very tough, but meaningful and pleasurable journey. When we first started, we said, how would we ever raise the kind of dollars that it would take to build 4 figures? And then no doubt to place them on the Commonwealth's property. Well, we are almost there. Once again, we are in the 4th quarter, 4th down, just inches to go. So I am hoping that with this press conference and the people we may reach today, they will just dig into their pockets or write a check, or we will take money any kind of way. But we need to make this happen. We talked about monuments being torn down. Well, this is a little bit more than a monument, because I look at our artisan who put these four people together as jewels. I think of them as diamonds, rubies, sapphire, and no doubt gold. So when we think about what this monument is going to say to the individuals of not just Harrisburg, Dauphin County, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it is answering many questions. It's going to keep that debate going, along with being beautiful as well. So we're hoping for that inbound traffic. We're hoping that this monument gives the Commonwealth something that they could be very, very proud of. The first African American monument on capital Commonwealth ground. That has to mean something. So I'm asking each person who sees, if any of you guys have checks, I'll be more than happy to take them as well. But I'm hoping that we get to that goal. We're just inches away. We are so close. We are so close that I can feel it. I'm very excited because I know we're going to make it, and I know we're going to make it with everyone's help. So remember to go to monumentpaus.com. Make your donation today. As the treasurer, I want to come back and say thank you. Thank you, thank you for giving us this wonderful gift because it belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, we've come to the end of our time. We present this gift of the people to you, and we remind you and your constituents that there are 4 ways that you can participate. The first is you can come down to City Hall and see this incredible piece of art hanging. And you can go to the eldest person you know and ask them what their memories of the old 8th Ward were. The second is you can log on to digitalharrisburg.com and follow one of the stories of the 100th families. Discover how we have searched for their descendants and what their descendants remember. The third is you can circle August 26th and come and stand with us in solidarity, not too close, remember your mask, but come stand with us in solidarity as we unveil the first pair of the 4 figures on the equality circle. And you can rub your hand on the names of history and you can stand with us. The fourth, as Kelly says, is you can go to monumentpaus.com and make your contribution. Help us over that line. But whatever you do, remember that the future is judged by how well we preserve the true and just stories of the past. We need you to dig under your bed, into your Bible, up on the closet shelf, and find the relics and reminiscences of your family's history. And call us up. Our history detectives will help you decode them. They'll help you figure out where you fit in this incredible parade of history. And we thank the city of Harrisburg. It will be hanging here, Mr. Mayor, I hope long after I am gone. And I hope that it will be yeast and catalyst from a grateful foster child. Mr. Mayor, would you say the last one?
Well, thank you, Lenwood, and thank you, everyone. And on behalf of the city of Harrisburg, we proudly accept this wonderful plaque, and we anticipate August 26th with great excitement, and we find this a very fitting way to begin our festivities here in the city honoring Juneteenth. So thank you for making this possible, and thank you all for coming.